There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the special city council meeting. The meeting is called to order. I'd like to ask our deputy city clerk to call the roll.
All council members are present.
Would you please stand with me and recite the Pledge of Allegiance, and after that have a brief moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. As a reminder, unlike regular meetings, public comments at special meetings are only allowed on the specific items listed on the special meeting agenda. We called a special meeting to consider a closed session. Jen, do we have any speaker cards for the closed session item?
There are no speaker cards, sir.
Then I'm going to ask our city attorney to recite the title and lead us into closed session.
Thank you, Mayor. The council will meet in closed session on item 1 as listed on the closed session agenda, conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6 with the agency designated representatives and employee organizations as listed on the agenda. Thank you.
I'll make a motion then to adjourn the closed session. Second. Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back after the closed session to go on to the next meeting.
Son of a bitch. Ladies and gentlemen, we just finished a special meeting with a closed session. I'm going to ask our city attorney to report on closed session.
Thank you, Mayor. The council met on the closed session item for the special meeting agenda. Direction was given, no reportable action was taken.
Thank you very much. Let's go on to the next meeting, our welcome to the El Cajon City Council meeting. The meeting is called to order, and I'd like to ask our deputy city clerk to please call the roll.
All council members are present.
Would you all please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance and then remain standing for a brief moment of silence afterwards. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The city clerk posted orders of adjournment of the March 24th, 2026 meeting and the agenda of the April 14th, 2026 meeting in accordance with state law, city council, and housing authority policy. We have a presentation on today's agenda for Spring into El Cajon. I'd like to ask our recreation manager, Heather Carter, to come to the podium and share this with us. Hi, Heather.
All right, good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. My name is Heather Carter. I'm a Parks and Recreation Manager here with the City of El Cajon, and I'm here to speak to you about Spring into El Cajon. So Spring into El Cajon is a brand new community event, and our goal is to bring together thousands of residents of all ages to connect with local resources, celebrate sustainability, and activate one of our key community spaces. This event will be this coming Saturday, April 18th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. It'll be at Renette Recreation Center and in the park. It is free admission, and most of the activities and booths and everything are free as well. We do expect around 2,000 people to attend this event. And the focus of the event is on Arbor Day, sustainability, as well as highlighting all of our city programs and services. And of course, sponsors are a really important part of all of our events. By supporting this event, they're supporting youth engagement, providing safe outdoor activity, and ensuring free access for families who may not otherwise be able to participate in our Parks and Recreation programs. So we're really thankful for these event supporters. Our diamond sponsor is Kaiser Permanente, and they're sponsoring all of our events for the year. Our Eco Champion sponsor is our Downtown El Cajon Business Partners. And then we have several in-kind sponsors that are providing a booth and some type of activity or giveaway at the event. And that includes Earth Discovery Institute, Soli, Tree San Diego, Outdoor Outreach, and West Coast Arborists. And then finally, we have our booth supporters. Those are different booths within the event that we'll have, including Boy Scouts, our El Cajon Library, and our very own Public Works, Police, and Development Services Department. As far as event marketing, we have done quite a few things. We've, of course, done social media posts. It's on our city website. We did mail out postcards to a select group that lives close to Renette Center. And we've handed out plenty of flyers in our programs, in our parks, and at our rec centers. We also have street banners around the city. We did a press release. We also did our flyer on Peach Jar, which is what all the school district uses to send flyers out to everyone. And my favorite promotion is I had these handed out to you. We have little plant packets here with native plants, and we attach them to the flyer. So we've been handing these out in our rec centers and parks. And then we also emailed our program participants, and we were on the back cover of the Spring Rec Guide, and the Cajon Valley School District was gracious enough to put the event on their Chromebook background so every student in Cajon Valley should have that on their Chromebook. Our event highlights include an Arbor Day tree planting ceremony. So we normally do that event separate, but it's going to be combined within this event this year. And we'd like to invite all of you to attend that. That'll be right at 10 a.m. So we'd love to have you if you're able to make it. It'll be at the stage area. And we'll also have entertainment from different groups, a canine demonstration from police. We'll have our TNT performing company there. And then we also have community supporters with lots of interactive booths there. We'll have trackless train rides and bounce houses, games, crafts. We'll also be doing some sample recreation programs in our gym and studio. We'll also have a movie in the park. We'll be showing an Earth movie and then Lorax. And we'll also have other interactive activities. And one more thing I didn't put on here, but we will have in the parking lot, we'll have a Touch a Truck little event. So Public Works, police, and our parks maintenance crew are bringing some of their vehicles so the public can look at those. And this is our event map, which we'll also have by QR code at the event. And up in the upper left corner in the parking lot, you can see our Touch a Truck area. In the center field, we have most of our vendors, our bounce houses, our movie in the park. And then within the recreation center, we have things going on in the gym, the studio, the preschool room, the craft room, and we'll have our game room open as well. So a lot of activities going on in the park, and we're really excited about it. We hope to see you there, and I'm available for questions.
No, I think you did such a good job that nobody has any questions. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
That brings us to agenda changes. Staff, do you have any agenda changes?
No, sir.
Council? No? Okay. We're at consent items now. Consent items are routine matters enacted by one motion according to the recommendation listed below. With the concurrence of the City Council, a council member or person in attendance may request discussion of a consent item at this time. Council members, do you wish to pull any of the consent items? All right, Mr. Goebel, which one? Item 10. You want to go ahead and tell us about that?
To understand, we're taking money out of general fund reserves because we were able to hire new people earlier than we thought, and so that's the reason that we're using the fund from reserves. True?
That is correct.
Okay. One of the other impacts is an investment is whenever you take money out of reserves, you lower your interest income earned on that investment. So I'm very mindful every time we take money out of reserves, it is purposeful and appropriate, and so I support this for sure, knowing that it has more than just a cost of $510,000. It's lost income as well, but it's certainly well spent for some great things coming.
Okay, that's it. Staff, do you
No,
wish to pull any consent items?
no, sir.
I can make a motion then to, let me see if there's any speaker cards for consent items.
There are no speaker cards for consent.
Then I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent items. Second. Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Okay. We're now at public comment. At this time, any person may address a matter within the jurisdiction of the City Council, Housing Authority, successor agency to the El Cajon Redevelopment Agency that is not on the agenda. Comments relating to items on today's agenda are to be taken at the time that the item is heard. Please note that state law prohibits discussion or action by the City Council on items not on the agenda. That being, not on the agenda that you bring up during public comment. Therefore, this is not a time that the City Council will be answering questions about issues you raise. However, we are taking note of the matters that you bring to our attention, and we will refer them to the City Manager for a follow-up as needed, and the item may be placed, of course, on a future agenda. Jen, do we have any speaker cards for public comment?
There are 5 speaker cards. Our first speaker is Ray Justice.
My name is Ray Justice, and I come to San Diego when I was 16 years old. So I know what it is to live on the street. I know what it is to serve God, and I appreciate the little sign you got up there on the door where the door covers that part of it, that in God we trust. And that means so much to me since I was here I was on the street when I was 15 years old. And it's too long of a story to go into detail, but you know what? The only reason I'm here today is because of the trust that I've had in God and His Son, Jesus Christ. And I can't tell you how many times that's been brought to my memory from a young kid, 6 years old. I remember that sign so vividly. Every time you cross a railroad track, there's that sign out in front. It said, "Stop, wait, and be careful." And as I thought of that sign, I don't know how many times I've come into life, facing life of different circumstances, but I've always found one thing. You trust God, you don't have to worry, because He has a plan cut out for me. He has a plan cut out for you. And as I look at these numbers on the names on these boards today, you know, 75 years ago, they were all different names. But the things that I'm thinking about is Chase Avenue Street. I've lived there raised half of my family on 732, and the other half I raised on 744. And I don't know of anyone that has a better remembrance of Chase Avenue and the people in El Cajon that I do. And most of those people are all gone now, passed on. And I thought a couple of key men in San Diego, or El Cajon, San Diego, was W.D. Hall. And also another man, Willie Carroll. And those were 2 men that at one time or another, they were very active in the government. And as a result, they're gone. But now, as they look on us having this meeting today, and they're just thankful that there are a few people that are left that really trust in the Lord. And I'd just like to say that what I'm interested in is Chase Avenue. And on one of those houses, I raised my girls, and the other one, it was too small, so I moved next door, bought that house. And all my kids went through the schools here in National City. And my kids, now then, some of them went to college, some of them didn't. But the ones that are successful today is the ones that put their trust in the living God.
Sir, your time is up. I just wanted to ask you, was there something about Chase Avenue that you wanted to say to us today?
Yes, there's 2 things that I had a picture of the telephone pole that's been in front of my house where I raised my kids, and it's been broken by a wreck. That I've lived on Chase Avenue on all those streets and seen the wrecks that come. My wife's grandma was killed and took her last breath on the street of Lincoln and Chase Avenue. So the reason I'm here today is I want to be thankful for the people that have lived before me, that serve God, and are today, as looking down on us today and seeing what we're doing. And my desire and purpose is that I got quite a bit of investment to make, and I'm going to make all my investments contributed to Chase Avenue. And so I noticed that since I was here a couple of weeks ago, that somebody has been out there and started correcting things on Chase Avenue. I noticed this morning, as I come by there was no parking signs, and I could see that people still park there, but it says there that they'll have their car towed away. And I didn't know that those signs were out there today, but I can see things that's being done now that's improving Chase Avenue. And I've been very, very successful in life. Not that I did anything, but God did it for me. But I'd like to make my contributions to Chase Avenue in making it safer and slowing down the traffic. The traffic has got to get out of Chase Avenue. It's got to get out of Washington. But, you know, it's the same thing. When they're out there on the freeway, they got to get down. And I know that they got to slow the traffic down, but they got traffic lights that can control it. And I'd just like to do my part in donating to the families of Chase Avenue. And that would be my desire. And I'm thankful for the meeting that we had this morning and the meeting that you folks had this morning, that you put God first. And I know one thing, if that is kept practiced that way, things can only get better. And that's my desire. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming, sir, and thanks for all you've done for our community.
The next speaker is Fadia Doss.
Hello, welcome.
Good afternoon, Mayor Wells and
Pulling that
Councilman.
microphone down to you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor Wells and council members. My name is Fadia Doss. I do have a handout that I would want to share with you, and perhaps you could
Give us the clerk.
share it. I'm here because the city has allowed a dangerous, unmarked traffic median at Hamishaw Road and Dorothy Street to remain open to the public in an unsafe condition. The median is essentially invisible at night. There is no stripping, no reflectors, no signage warning drivers. People are driving directly into it. My college pre-med student was home for spring break and hit this new island median. She sustained over $7,800 in vehicle damage. This is not hypothetical. This has actually happened. The city has acknowledged this project is incomplete and the safety features have not yet been installed, yet the issue has been marked as resolved. No temporary protections have been put in place. That means the city is aware of the hazard, but has chosen to leave it exposed to the public. This creates a very serious safety and liability issue. So I want to ask you, why is it unfinished and unmarked roadway hazard, and an unmarked roadway hazard is left open to the public without basic temporary safety measures? What is being done right now is nothing. They say it's going to get completed in mid-May. To prevent another accident, I actually am requesting immediate action. Temporary reflective markings and warning signage. Physical visibility measures like cones or reflectors. Something of that sort needs to be in place. A clear timeline for completion. Mid-May is when they're possibly going to look at it again. And accountability for the damages already caused. If this does not get addressed immediately, it's only a matter of time before a more serious accident occurs. Do you have any questions for me?
Let me see if there's any questions. No, I guess not, but thank you. Are you aware of this town hall meeting that we're having on the 21st?
I was made aware of it on Friday, yes.
Oh, good. I hope you come.
I will be there.
Great. Thank you very much.
The next speaker is Dr. Ryan Fan.
Testing, testing. All good? Thanks. Good afternoon, honorable council members and mayor. Thanks for this opportunity to speak with you all today about an important issue that directly affects thousands of El Cajon residents. We've been in conversation with several of you, including city staff, about this initiative, specifically about Middle Eastern and North African communities who aren't getting counted, in hopes that we can get El Cajon City's support. My name's Dr. Ryan Fan, and I'm here representing Mejdel, the Arab Community Center of San Diego. We're located right on Main Street across from council chambers. We provide critical services to about 3,600 residents of Middle Eastern and North African communities. Many of our families are Iraqi, Syrian, Chaldean, or Kurdish, but they're still getting counted inaccurately. They're not getting counted in official data. According to the 2020 census, about 3.8 million Americans reported Middle Eastern or North African, or MENA ancestry, and that includes about 1 million Californians, 112,000 San Diego County residents, and over 25,000 El Cajon residents. That's about 1/4 of the city's population. These are definitely undercounts, given the arrival of many newcomers from Afghanistan and Syria. State and federal agencies use this race and ethnicity data to allocate resources for healthcare, education, workforce and business grants, and so much more. The problem is the reported ancestry data is disconnected from race and ethnicity data, which means that MENA communities are still getting grouped under white. This misrepresents both MENA and white communities by skewing data related to housing, healthcare, employment, income, and public assistance. So for example, the combined data actually obscures the white population's housing status or income levels. That makes it really difficult to identify who even needs assistance. Accurate data will enable the City of El Cajon and local organizations to save time and money through targeted initiatives that are informed by the data. Another example would include early intervention strategies for preventable diseases that are more prevalent in certain populations. And that would reduce costly public health spending and exacerbated issues later down the line. There are already resolutions and laws passed at the federal, state, and county levels to disaggregate Middle Eastern North African data from the white category. We're now asking El Cajon City to follow suit and pass a local resolution. This would be a really strong show of support for thousands of students, parents, doctors, teachers, service workers, small business owners, city staff from MENA communities in El Cajon. We've already drafted sample resolution language with city staff, so the resolution isn't meant to be purely symbolic. We'd like to include actionable items that reflect the city's commitment to a critical segment of its constituency. One such actionable item is a city-endorsed pilot survey to be administered by local organizations, and 20 local organizations have already endorsed the campaign for this resolution, including Family Health Centers of San Diego, who serve over 250,000 county residents, and several other community-based organizations such as United Domestic Workers and the American Arab Anti-Discrimination Committee. The Grossmont Healthcare District is considering an endorsement, and I'll be meeting with them tomorrow. The list of endorsements continues to grow, demonstrating widespread support. We request that city staff present the council with a draft resolution to be agendized for an upcoming meeting, and we look forward to discussing next steps to ensure that MENA communities are finally recognized and counted, especially given that 1/4 to 1/3 of the population is MENA here in El Cajon. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Mina Naomi.
Good afternoon, Council Member and Mayor. My name is Mina Naomi. I am an Iraqi Chaldean and a program coordinator speaking as a representative for Empowerment One Rise One in supporting establishing a separate data category for Middle Easterns and North Africa MENA communities. We're located here in Lexington. Our organization serves over 200 both in high school and community college, as well as more than 60 families through programs focused on career readiness, AI and technology, public speaking, and human connect. Many of the families we serve come from different MENA backgrounds, including Somali, Chaldean, Afghan, Lebanese, Syrian, and Iraqis communities. Yet, despite their rich diversity, they are often inaccurately grouped under white or other broad categories that erase their lived experiences. As an undergrad student, I personally experienced a deep sense of invisibility. I struggled to find belonging and to navigate higher education without culturally relevant support systems. I often felt like I had to choose between checking a box that didn't represent me or not being represented at all. Now, even as I complete my master's degree, that challenge still exists, whether applying for jobs or applying for a PhD next. And I still have to select white category. That does not reflect my identity, my culture, or my community. And my story is not unique. Many of students and families we serve share similar experiences and being overlooked, misunderstood, and disconnected from systems that are meant to support them. Creating distinct MENA category is not just about about recognition, but also equity and dignity. We cannot build equitable systems without accurate representations. We cannot support communities we refuse to see. I strongly urge you to please recognize MENA identities through a separate data category. This is a necessary step toward equity, inclusion, and meaningful change. This will also help us to have a program for the first time as a Middle Eastern MENA at a community college or university, and this is actually one of my goals to do, to foster student support. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
The next speaker is Rond Al-Yubadi.
Hello, welcome.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, council members and mayor. My name is Rand Al-Ubaidi. And I am an employee of Family Health Center of San Diego. My role is Manager of Refugee Program Services. Family Health Center operates more than 90 sites in San Diego County, making us the largest community clinic provider of healthcare in the county. We are also one of the top 10 largest federally qualified health centers in the county. Family Health Centers of San Diego supports the establishments of a separate data category of Middle Eastern and North Africa MENA communities. Our organization serves 250,000 individuals, including a large number of residents in El Cajon. Family health centers provide caring, affordable, high-quality health care and supportive services to everyone, with a special commitments to uninsured, low-income, and medically undeserved persons. Our organization relies on data to deliver critical health services to families in need. That means we need data on household size, employment and income, and health insurance enrollment for MENA communities, which is currently unavailable. Many of our families are of MENA ancestry, but they are getting inaccurately grouped into white or other data categories. If we can collect more accurate data for MENA communities, that will enable us to develop and tailor our programs in a way that accounts for differences in language and reach community members who are in most need of assistance. Data also enables us to create together interventions which will help improve public health and avoid wasteful spending in the long run. On a personal level, I'm Iraqi from the MENA community, and I believe that this recognition would better support my needs as part of this city's community. Being recognized in data is about visibility, equity, and dignity. Thank you for your consideration, and please support this initiative to establish a Middle Eastern and North African category in data collection and reporting. Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
The final speaker is Brenda Hammond.
Hi, Brenda.
Hi. So you already know this story about red and blue makes purple. But did you know about yellow and green? So here's green, El Cajon. Yellow, Santee. So I bought my car in Santee for a reason. I'm not going to repeat it. You can go back and watch Santee's meeting. But I have it, so I bought it in Santee. I have it serviced in El Cajon. But I'm not sure what to put in the middle of these two because I keep seeing this pissing contest. You know what that means. But wait. So it didn't work today in 2 other cities, but instead of dropping the F-bomb, I found this for half price for Easter. It was an Easter rack for at Walmart. So when somebody messes with me, I'm going to put this in their face. I'll pass it around so you can see what it is. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for coming and telling us about that.
There are no more speakers.
Okay, well, thanks very much. There are no written communications and no public hearings on today's agenda. We have 2 administrative reports on today's agenda. Item 11 is a report on tax revenue analysis and staffing levels, and I'll ask our city manager to tell us about this.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. I wanted to present some data about taxes, where we're at tax-wise, where we're at budget-wise, kind of some of our staffing levels, and it's really the culmination of a lot of data and research that we've been doing over the years. We've talked about this during the Measure J campaign. We've talked about it even going back before that. And we've always sort of talked about it theoretically, but without really some hard data behind it. But we've spent a lot of time doing some data research, and we actually engaged with a consultant to get us some other data that we didn't have access to. And so I thought it'd be interesting to share the information. It's good going into the budget season, kind of having an understanding of this. So with that, for a while, we've always talked about this idea that not every city gets the same percentage of property tax. And so I have some data to share with you on that. And to magnify the problem for cities like El Cajon that are low property tax cities, our land values are also low. And so that really manifests itself in how much revenue the city gets on a per capita basis. And I'll show you some data about that. So this is just a depiction of how the city of El Cajon's property tax is distributed. So if you're an average resident and you're paying, your percentage on your assessed value, about 48% of it goes to your local school districts, split between Grossmont Union High School District and Cajon Valley. 15% of it goes to the County of San Diego. The city of El Cajon gets 11.7%. And then it's just split up amongst a whole bunch of other folks. Community colleges get a little bit. Some goes to a fund called ERAF, which actually had to do when there was some redistribution of property tax and sales tax. And so that makes school districts whole in some areas. And I'll share some data about that a little bit later on as well. And a little bit goes to the county library system. So that's El Cajon's share. And every city actually has a very different model. Similar, we almost all pay the same in East County to the community college districts. I think, so we're at 9.4. I believe Lemon Grove is at 9.1. I think La Mesa is like 9.2 or 9.3. Santee somehow, because they incorporated later, they're like at 6%, so they pay a little bit less than we do. But almost across the board, almost all cities are very similar, except for how much they receive. And so this is a graph that shows what percentage of property tax each city receives. The county median is 17.25%. The highest receiving city is the city of Coronado. They receive almost 31% of the property tax that their residents pay. El Cajon pays the 11.7%. We're only followed by 2 other cities. La Mesa is a little bit above 11%, and then Escondido a little bit above 11% as well. There's an asterisk next to San Marcos. They actually get about 6.5%. But they also have a designated fire district that gets 8-point-something%. So you add those together because the city runs their fire district. So those combine to equal more than the 6% that the most graphs show. I was kind of curious to understand how San Diego County compares with other counties in terms of the disparate amounts per city, what the average amount is. There's a lot of cities and a lot of counties in California. So we picked actually 4 counties, one LA-based, one rural-based, one Bay Area or Central Coast-based, counties that had similar size, number of cities. And this just gives you a sense. So we actually, cities across this county actually get a bigger chunk of the pie than most cities do. We also have the highest percentage, again, Coronado getting 31%, and then cities like Escondido getting just above 10%. So we have a wider diversity of amount of taxes that are paid, where most counties, it's a little bit more similar. Almost everyone gets about the same amount across the board. So when you add in the rate of tax that cities receive from their residents and their property owners and the property value, and you throw in VLF, that's vehicle license fees, and the reason it's thrown in because they're all kind of mingled together during this big compromise done by the state and the cities many years ago. When we throw it all together and divide it by on a per capita basis, you can see how much cities get per capita. We receive the lowest amount of property tax and vehicle license fees per capita in the county of San Diego. If we even received median, that would be an additional $12 million. So, and we'll talk about things that we can potentially do to help with this. But clearly, those that are in that lower echelon of cities, Lemon Grove on down, will continue to struggle year after year after year. So we also thought it's only fair if we looked at property tax, we should probably look at sales tax as well. So here's just a sales. So we looked at the point of sale. We get 1% of any point in sale that occurs in the city of El Cajon. We also get a share of the county pool. So any online purchases go into this county pool, and then that gets divided amongst the cities. And so I'll show you some data and some per capita comparisons where we actually fare a little bit better than others. This is looking just at the cities that use our same contractor for sales tax purposes. So you can see we're in the middle of the pack of those sample cities. We are a little bit above San Diego County average. We're above Southern California average, and we're above California average when it comes to sales tax per capita. And as you remember, there are some cities that have sales tax measures. There's a handful that do not still. Some have 1% sales tax measures. La Mesa has the 3/4. And then there's, along with El Cajon, Escondido, Vista, and Oceanside have the 1/2-cent sales tax measures. So that's additional revenue that comes into them. We also looked at general fund expenditures per capita. So this is really a culmination of, for the most part, property tax, sales tax, some TOT, some other basic fees. But the median across the county is about $1,358 per person. We're just around about $1,000 per person that we receive that we spend on residents for the services. But you look at Del Mar and Coronado are so much higher, partly because their property tax values or their property tax allocation and their land values are so much higher. That's the reason why they're a little bit of the outliers. Before I move on to staffing levels, any questions about sort of just the revenue side of where we compare?
I don't know if you're going to go over this in your presentation, very enlightening, but what would be the process, or is there a process, to increase the percentage that the city receives? Or is there, maybe you'll go over it later.
I'll touch on that, yes. So we live within our means. So that means that our staffing levels reflect our revenue. And so let me just share some data with the council over time. A lot of our sales tax, although it has increased, it has actually increased at the same rate or in sometimes less than the inflationary rate. So actually our sales tax in true dollars has actually gone down over time. So historically, this is looking at 25 years worth of staffing levels for all staff across the board. You can see there was an increase in staffing from 2000 to 2025 or 2005. Right between 2005 and 2010 was the Great Recession, so there's a large reduction in staffing levels. And for the most part, we've stayed pretty flat over that period of time. And luckily, our population hasn't grown dramatically in that period of time, but it has grown. Things are a lot more complicated than they used to be. The demands for city services have increased over that period of time as well. This looks at that same graph, but by department. You can see that the police department took a pretty significant hit during the Great Recession, where we cut a lot of staff. As you recall, we closed the East County Performing Arts Center just so we could keep additional police officers on the street. Public Works also took a hit during the Great Recession, and actually has continued to, continued to reduce Public Works staffing over that period of time. Pretty much all the other departments had drops during the Great Recession. The fire department is the one exception. It has stayed pretty stable, although just for ease of analysis, I just removed anyone that was working on an ambulance before and after, so we could compare an apple and orange, because they had a significant drop in staffing when we began contracting with AMR. And to be fair with Public Works, we've also, over time, contracted out certain services like janitorial services, street sweeping services, some other services through contracting out. This shows staff changes by percentage over that period of time. So the fire suppression has actually gone up by 6 positions, not including the 9 that will be part of Engine 208. Development services gone up 3.5%, or 8% with 3.5 positions. Recreation 1 position. Police has gone down over that period of time. General government and public works has gone down dramatically. Again, we've contracted out a lot of our public works, but we've also cut a lot of our staff from that department. I wanted to get a good sense. I have some data that shows police and fire, how we compare, but I also wanted to look at just general government and how we compare to other cities in the region. And we just sort of picked some sample cities that were similar to our size or had police departments as well, so it's a little bit more apple to apple. And then we also used 2 of our neighbors, La Mesa and Santee. So just going to there's a lot of data here, I apologize. We have 39 staff that make up the city manager's office, the city clerk's office, HR, IT, and finance. So that's kind of our staffing level right there. It's a little deceptive because some cities are larger than other cities, and so I'll show you a per capita in a second. But we are just a little bit above La Mesa and Santee, who, by the way, are half our size. So we're doing pretty much twice the amount of work as some of our neighboring cities. Looking at our employee, at our general government employees on a per resident basis, again, we're about in general government, about half of what the next lowest or Escondido is. We're similar to Oceanside, actually, in Carlsbad when it comes to general government. Our HR staff, our IT and our staff, and our finance staff, I lump those together because I think of those as our internal service departments. Vince and I don't do a lot of service to the other departments. We serve the council and oversee general management, but specifically IT, finance, and HR actually work directly with all those other departments. So without an IT department, without an HR department, you don't have a fire department because you don't hire people and you don't provide the technology that they need or pay the bills that they're incurring. So if you look at that core general government, we are half of what some of the other cities are. Also, I wanted to look at where we are at police officer-wise, looking at our sworn officers per 1,000 residents. We have 1.3 officers per 1,000 residents. So we're in the middle of the pack when it comes to that. But I also thought we would look at our officers per what are called Group A offenses. Back in the day, it used to be sort of FBI rated. So it's violent crime and it's property-related crimes, but these are felony crimes. So looking at offenses per officer, that tells you how busy we are. We are almost tied with Escondido as the second busiest department on a per officer basis in the county of San Diego. We also looked at the fire department. Again, I looked at frontline staffing, so I took out battalion chiefs. I just looked at fire captains, fire engineers, and firefighter paramedics. I excluded any paramedics or any of individuals that are working on an ambulance in other cities to have a more apple comparison. So let me just share a couple staffing ratios with the council. Looking at our frontline staff per 1,000 residents, we are the second lowest in the county of San Diego. So we are about 0.5 firefighters per 1,000 residents. The county median is 0.72. Del Mar is a little bit of an anomaly just because they're so small. They're always going to, it doesn't matter how many you have, it's going to kind of throw the numbers off. But the median is around 0.72. So this assumes no engine 208. So if you assume 208, it doesn't change your order. It does kick it up to almost 0.6, so it moves us up a little bit, but it doesn't really move the needle dramatically. But it will have a big difference on engine 208. What's interesting, though, is if you look at our stations, and it gets back to just where they're busy. Station 8 and Station 6 are extremely busy. Station 9 and 7 are not busy. In fact, we're looking at some data, the average number of calls for the month of March, and there was a lot of training done in the month of March, so it's probably not a traditional data point, but it was a little around three calls per day from Station 9 and Station 7. So very, very few calls, but 6s and 8 is very busy. We also thought, are we busier than a lot of other cities? So we looked at our total 911 fire-related calls per capita. And I thought this was interesting. Del Mar and Coronado are the busiest, partly because I think there's an expectation of a certain type of service. They're also beach cities that also attract a lot of calls for 911. But exclude those two cities, we're one of the top busiest in terms of calls per capita in the county of San Diego. We're at 0.17. I also looked at our fire calls per frontline staff, and if you add how low we are as our staffing levels combined with how busy we are from a calls per capita, we are by far the busiest fire department in San Diego County, without a doubt. Now, if you add engine 208, so we're at about almost 350 calls per frontline staff person in a year. When you add engine 208, it does drop to 293. So it actually drops significantly. So that will take a lot of pressure off. Engine 208 will take a lot of pressure off our staff. Any questions about fire staffing, police staffing, general staffing before I move on to sort of where the economy is going? Okay, so I thought, again, an opportunity to kind of be a primer for the city as we get ready to dive into some budget hearings soon. So I wanted to kind of touch on four things. U.S. GDP, looking at fourth quarter. Usually fourth quarter is the most robust quarter in a fiscal year. That's your holiday season shopping. That's where you hope you make up for maybe a slow summer. The federal government actually predicted a 1.4% growth rate in the month of December, which is not bad actually. Unfortunately, they downgraded that 1.4% recently to 7% or 0.7%, and then just this last week they even downgraded it more to 0.5%. So it's one of the slowest fourth quarter growths in a long period of time that we've experienced. In talking to a lot of my colleagues around the state of California, and I feel it feels like we are entering into an atypical recession. Typically a recession, you feel it for 2 or 3 quarters and you bounce back. This is feeling more and more like 2008 recession. It's going to persist probably for a couple years. U.S. unemployment has been hovering around 4.3%. That's U.S. I don't have specific San Diego County unemployment data. That is about 0.5% lower than it was last year, or higher than last year. So unemployment's ticking up a little bit year over year. The one that has a big impact on us is sales tax growth projections. We received word in the last quarter report from our sales tax consultant based on state projections that we were going to have a pretty robust bounce back in sales tax of about 4%, which is really healthy. We just received revised numbers this week based on GDP, unemployment, state figures, some early returns on sales tax data. It's going to be closer to 2%. Just so you know, a 4% to 2% dip is about $2 million. So it's about 1%. 1% equals about $1 million. So for us, that's a $2 million loss of revenue that we were anticipating having going into next fiscal year. And then our property tax growth, it's pretty modest. It's not dipping, thank goodness. Usually property tax rates don't drop, but it's soft, to say the least. So this gets to the question that Mr. Ortiz rose. Let's talk about some implications and then what we can do about that. One, it's obvious that El Cajon is lean and that we will continue to be lean. It's going to be in our nature, which means that we can't throw huge sums of money at our employees. We need to be focused on our purpose. We need to be focused on how to create opportunities for growth and satisfaction and political stability. And this is a call to the city council. The reason we've been able to survive in a lot of the ways is because this council is very politically stable and you get along, and that makes a big difference. We've seen in some cities that are in similar situations, once the city council becomes conflicted or constant turnover with the county supervisors, with people resigning, it has a huge impact on city staff or on county staff in this case. So the fact that we've had so much stability has been a huge benefit. So something that we need to be thinking about as a staff perspective, how do we ensure that political stability in our community is really important to us. I think we're going to always have to be looking at not the nice to haves, but focusing on the have to haves. And so we'll be having some conversations with the council as part of this upcoming budget scenario or budget discussions and laying out some different scenarios of what are some things that have been nice to have, but probably aren't necessary to have. And so those are just some things that we'll probably recommend the council consider eliminating. And then it gets back to the importance of economic development, the importance of focusing on our commercial corridors, Parkway Plaza. But as a reminder, and we talked a lot about this during the Measure J campaign, if we are structurally deficit, if we wanted to keep up with the Joneses, we need legitimately another $13 to $30 million just to sort of be on par with everyone else. So let's just say 30 million, thinking really big. That's 15 Costcos, right? So I mean, that's just not possible. There's no such thing as 15 Costcos, and you could throw in a Costco and Bass Pro Shop. What else generates millions of dollars? That's about it. So, I mean, you can only have so many of those, right? So economic development, while important, cannot be the panacea. It has to be other things, which leads to the question that Mr. Ortiz asked, how do we change our share of property tax? Now, Vince and I think there might be a legislative solution, but with that legislative solution, there's going to be some real losers. And the big loser will be the state of California, because the state of California takes that ERAF money and they divert it back to schools. So when you look at how much Coronado receives in property tax, the question is, who gets less money? It's the school district. So Coronado School District gets very little amount of money, but they get that money back, one, because their values are enough to they don't need as much in terms of percentage, but they get a little bit of that back in ERAF money as well. And so, which means our taxpayers in some ways are subsidizing other communities' schools. And we think there's maybe some legal opportunity to explore there more than a legislative solution, because I think the legislative solution, people will figure out who are the winners, who are the losers, winners, losers, how do you split the baby and make everyone happy? You just can't. It's impossible. But we think there's sort of a taxation without representation kind of argument that could be made. We've talked to a consultant about that, and he sort of laughed at the notion and said, no, you you'll have no standing at all. But I think it's worth exploring, and if council's okay with this, not spending money on it, but I think it's probably something worth seeing if there's some value in how to get our fair share, because it does seem disproportionately unfair to the city of El Cajon and other cities that are similar to us. So with that, we're here to answer any questions or receive any feedback that the council may have.
Michelle?
Thanks, Graham. My question has to do with your very final statement regarding getting more property tax back. How is that going to work with the movement in Sacramento from, say, Carl DeMaio and other assembly members trying to keep Prop 13?
I mean, Prop 13, I mean, there's a lot of unintended consequences from Prop 13. Our disproportionate low share of property tax is one of those consequences of Prop 13. Prop 13 is a very politically hot potato. I'm not going to dive into that. Right. But there are some areas of some, I think, common sense reform that could have an impact to El Cajon.
Because we do have a lot of older homeowners, and property taxes keep going up. My house is not that fancy, and I'm paying over $4,000 a year in property taxes. And it seems like, you know, El Cajon needs more, but I can't afford more property taxes. So I'm just kind of curious, if we go to get more of our share, how will that affect residents and their paying property taxes?
It doesn't affect. That's the beautiful thing. Prop 13 locks in the total amount that you're going to pay. The pie can only stay the same size.
Okay.
It's how the pie is divvied up. The one area that we can influence is because, and this is long before the city council was on the city council, but in the 60s, the way we zoned the valley floor in a way that actually attracted a lot of affordable housing, we pay for that. We do not get the amount of property values that, say, La Mesa receives because of the way that we're developed. And so as we redevelop lower income portions of our city and build new, ideally for sale housing, which is what's happening on both bookends of the downtown,
right.
Long term, that will have an impact. Okay. Short term, no, but long term, I think that has to be the vision of the city council, is how can we look at turning properties over and helping to create more affluent housing development that benefits the city and not benefits the region.
Got it. Thank you.
Phil, did you want to say anything? Steve?
Speaking of the property tax, let's go back to the slide. It was property tax and VLF per capita, I think. Yeah, so it's a double whammy here because there's two things that go into the property tax and VLF revenue, the dollars that we get. The rate, 11.7%, and the assessed value. The assessed value times the rate is our property tax revenue. So if we're a low assessed community, the housing in El Cajon versus the housing in Coronado, we're going to get hit twice because we have a lower rate for Coronado and we have a lower assessed value. And that's what I'm seeing on that graph. Am I reading that right?
That's exactly right. One of the challenges with looking at, and you and I talked about this, is how to compare parcel to parcel. It's hard to do because parcels are so different. But if you look at, and we've talked about this data before, if you look at housing prices per city, that is a bit indicative of how much value is going to be generated from that in terms of property tax. We have some of the lowest affordable housing in the county, which means we're always, until that shifts, we will always have the lowest amount of value coming back to the city.
Another way to look at it is typically, historically, people would live in a house for 7, 10, 15 years, and they would move. I have more children, I need more bedrooms, I need a bigger house. And when they move, it reset the property tax to that new level. But if you're not turning over the properties, if we're the last stop for many people and they're not turning over because there is no alternative, we never get that reset of the property tax rate.
That's exactly right. We have the highest percentage of rental properties in the county. And so a rental property, like Mr. Goebel said, doesn't turn over all the time. Usually it's owned by one individual. So that re-established assessed value does not occur with those properties. It's maybe a triple whammy, actually.
And when it finally sells to somebody, then the new owner comes in and says, hey, I'm paying more in property tax. I got to raise your rents to recover it. People complain about the higher rents, and the argument goes on. What about, we seem to be seeing more nonprofit organizations buy real estate. Is that having a disparate effect on El Cajon versus other communities per square mile?
It certainly does. I mean, whenever we have nonprofits, we have medical facilities, we do not get nonprofit medical facilities. We do not get the tax for those. I mean, that's one of the challenges with the Kaiser Permanente property. They're a nonprofit. So when that gets built, that $1 billion hospital gets built, we will get very little property tax from that facility. So we'll get other ancillary value from it, but that is a challenge for our community. I do think almost all communities suffer from that challenge to a certain degree, especially ones that have hospitals in them. There's a high percentage of properties that are nonprofit medical in that area. I think also as retail, a lot of cities are over commercial developed. As people try to figure out what to do with those, a lot of nonprofits or non-property tax paying entities go into those facilities. And so that's a challenge as well.
My takeaway here is we're not seeing the turnover of properties and resetting of property taxes. That's one source of income we could have, but because we're socioeconomically one of the last stops, where do you go when you can't go lower, in a sense?
Absolutely.
And I'm sympathetic to that. It is what it is. The other thing is, okay, how do we, I think Prop J was $13 million a year, or half cent?
That's about $13 million. That's correct.
So, someday if somebody else wanted to do another half cent, it would get us out of a hole in a way, but it's up to the people to decide what level of service they want. Okay, thank you.
Gary, anything?
That covers it for me.
Well,
I apologize. I know this is a difficult conversation and difficult data to look at, but I think it's helpful to see that going into the budget season. So,
I agree with you. The legislative option seems pretty unlikely, considering the makeup of the legislature right now and the role that money plays in politics. So I like your idea about a legal solution. I'd like to hear what you had to say about exploring that more.
yeah, we'll do that. We'll come back with maybe a memo or even a closed session agenda item to discuss that.
A lot of people talk about equity these days. This would be something to hang your hat on in regard to equity. So anybody else want to say anything about this? Let me see if there's any speaker cards on this item.
There are no speaker cards, sir.
Okay, so we don't need a vote, right?
Nope.
Do you want me to accept the report?
Yep, accept the report. Appreciate your feedback, Council.
Okay, make a motion then to accept the report. Second. Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Thanks. The last administrative report on today's agenda, item 12, is for reckless speed warning pilot program. And I'll ask Captain Bates to introduce this item. Hello, sir. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
Great. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Good afternoon, Mayor, members of the City Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Royal Bates. I am the Operations Bureau Captain for the El Cajon Police Department. As we all know, speeding continues to be a growing concern for both our residents and our city. Traditional enforcement alone cannot be everywhere at once, and that's why at times we must consider solutions that think a bit outside the box. Tonight, I'm presenting a pilot program that would be the first of its kind in California, a proactive, data-driven approach to reducing speeds through the use of speed warning cameras. This proposed one-year pilot program would deploy 4 mobile speed warning cameras, with 1 initially placed in each council district to ensure equitable coverage across the city. These cameras are not designed to issue citations. Instead, they issue warnings, up to 500 per month, pooled across all 4 cameras, to drivers traveling 20 miles per hour or more over the posted speed limit. Each warning will closely resemble a citation, but will be clearly marked with a bold red warning across the top, along with a customizable message. The goal is simple: to take away the anonymity of speeding and create a moment of accountability that encourages safer driving behavior. One of the key advantages of the program is flexibility. These are mobile systems allowing us to pivot quickly and deploy them in neighborhoods experiencing spikes in speeding. Additionally, the cameras will operate during the highest risk hours, initially from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m., with the ability to adjust those times as needed based on data. Speaking of data, this program provides access to valuable insights. We will be able to track trends, generate customizable reports, and share information with our engineering teams to help inform potential roadway improvements. This is not just an enforcement tool, it is a planning tool as well. From a cost perspective, the program is designed to be efficient and manageable. The total cost is $100,000 for 4 cameras, so $25,000 per unit, which includes implementation, maintenance, a full program management, as well as access to Ultimate, which is the company that we're looking at going with, marketing and support team. Importantly, this program acts as a force multiplier. It allows us to extend our reach beyond what is possible with officer presence alone, helping us address speeding in more places, more consistently, and more effectively. At its core, this pilot is a low-risk, potentially high-reward investment in public safety. It gives us a measurable way to address speeding, reduce collisions, and ultimately make our streets safer for everyone. To meet our goals of reducing speed and saving lives, we need tools that can work even when we are not physically present. This program offers exactly that, and I respectfully ask for your support to move forward with this pilot implementation, so we can continue taking meaningful steps towards slowing down traffic and protecting our community. Thank you for your time and consideration. I'm open to any questions.
Thanks, Captain. I appreciate that. Anybody have questions? Michelle?
Thank you, Captain. These warnings, is it like just a warning that comes up on a screen?
No, the warning actually gets mailed to their house.
That's what I'm looking for, something tangible. So the camera will grab the license plate, then send out to the owner of the car, and then there's no fine associated with it, but it's just, we got your number.
Correct. And
Okay.
we went with that 20 mile an hour because those are typically our most egregious speeders, anybody driving over 20 miles an hour, and with the pooled 500 warnings per for the 4 cameras per month. We didn't want to burn through all the warnings right away with people
Right.
driving 5 miles an hour over the speed limit, so we came up with that 20 mile an hour number. And yeah, so it'll send a warning to the house. The hope, like I said, is to take away that anonymity of people speeding. Captain MacArthur and I were also talking about, anecdotally, we talk about some of our speeders in the city and throughout the state being teenagers. I know in my house, when I was a teenager, if that were to show up at my house, there may not be any law enforcement at that point, but definitely some additional enforcement of, possibly losing my car or whatever. So we see a benefit to that as well.
Now, do you have something going forward? This will be for what, 1 year?
Yes, it's a one-year
Okay,
pilot
So
program.
it's a one-year program. And do you anticipate what type of reaction or steps would be taken for repeat offenders?
So we haven't really talked about what we would do with repeat offenders. We do have the ability, and this is something that we still need to explore, but we do have the ability through Ultimate's program to have this information uploaded into our CAD data. That's something that we would still need to talk about. But as far as repeat offenders, again, it's a warning system. I don't know that it's going to cause us to go knock on doors, but no, that's something we can explore.
The reason why I ask is that, we are trying to keep our belts tightened and use what money we have judiciously. So if we were to say, yes, we want to do this, that's $100,000. If we're just giving out warnings and they know that there's no bark behind that, people go, yeah, okay, so I sped. And I can keep doing it, and they're just going to give me warnings, and nothing's going to happen to me.
Yeah, well, and that's just the way the California law is set up. In Arizona, you'd actually get a ticket, but in California, we cannot use that technology. So until the state of California changes that rule, it is what that is.
But it would be good for data to take up to Sacramento and say, okay, look, we've done this. We're trying to mitigate the speeding in our city, and here's the data that shows what we have. And this would be still in conjunction with officers on the street and actions like we had this morning.
Absolutely.
Which was a great result.
Correct. This would just be a force multiplier for us to help reduce speed. There was an assembly bill that was passed a couple years ago where they are allowing, I believe, 8 counties within the state right now to try issuing citations, and they're seeing great results with that. That pilot program is supposed to end in 2032, so there is a possibility that after analyzing all that data, they see a big reduction in speed through these cameras that are issuing citations, so we may be allowed to have them at some point at that time. But the data is showing that in some of the areas they're seeing up to 40 to 60% reduction in speed and crashes. And if we can even just get a portion of that by issuing a warning, I think that would be a win.
That sounds great. Mr. Mitchell, would this be something that would be brought up at our town hall to let the residents know that we're looking into this pilot program?
Certainly, as these issues come up and talk about technology, it'll be one of the things that we'll talk about.
Okay, because I think the residents want to see some action. Our enforcement action that we had this morning has great results. And I think residents want to see something tangible. We can talk all we want, but unless they actually see you guys out there or like these cameras, I think that it's just talk. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you, Captain. Thank you, Captain, for your presentation. To kind of piggyback off of Ms. Mitchell's questions, let's say there is a repeat offender, will that information be available to an officer if they pull someone over for speeding and then their rap sheet is there? So as to say, we're removing discretion from the officer and the ability for the person to say, oh, this is my first time, I'm late for work, no. Is that an opportunity to have that information at that point for them?
It could be. We haven't gotten that granular with what we want to do with repeat offenders and that type of data. Again, there is the ability for us to upload that information into our CAD system. So hypothetically, we could pull a vehicle over, be able to run that information in CAD and see that this person has gotten multiple warnings through our speed warning system. Yeah. That's something that we could look at doing.
Yeah. Okay. Great. And I know I had some questions about our flock system based off of privacy rights groups. And so the framework that I think we established with flock was, after a certain amount of time, we don't retain the data and it's deleted, and flock, it's all public information. So I'm not sure about this new organization that we're using, but if we could stay within those same parameters, that'd be great. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I think this is a great idea. I mean, it's relatively low labor, and we have machines doing the work for us. And I think it's going to be a little bit jarring, especially if it's a teenage or college driver, when the registered owner gets that note. If one of my kids that did that, they'd be in really big trouble. So did they have the picture of the person also that's driving, or is it just a license plate?
As far as what gets sent to their house,
Yeah.
I believe it's just the warning that that gets mailed to them about location, time, speed, vehicle information. We can write that warning. We have the ability to adjust that and really kind of make it say what we want. But as far as the data that is provided, I believe that's all already set.
Okay. So it's going to get the registered owner a little upset, I'm sure. And I think that'll help with some of these high school and college age drivers. So thank you.
That's
Great idea.
That's what we're hoping for. Again, this is a pilot program. This is something that we talked about with this company. There's no one else in the state of California that's doing anything like this with speed warnings. And if it's successful, it could really benefit other agencies as well.
Right.
Anything, Steve?
Yeah. To clarify, the staff report says during the year, the vendor allows for a total of 500 total warnings. You said 500 per month.
Correct.
Can you clarify, is it per year or per month?
It's per month.
Per month.
Yes.
Okay, so 6,000 eligible per year or something.
Yeah, I'm
checking the contract.
Clarifying on my notes here, but I'm quite certain it's.
I can't believe we would only get 500
yeah.
things for $100,000.
500 total pooled per month.
Per month, sounds great.
We'll get them the first 3 days.
And to reiterate, the warning goes to the registered owner of the vehicle. We can't prove who was driving.
Correct.
Okay, sounds good. Hopefully that does, some portion, have multiple people talking about this in the household. When somebody speeds, do they also commit another infraction like going through a stop sign, going through a stoplight? Typically, is it a multiple incident offense?
It can be, depending on the location, what their speed is. That's possible.
Yeah, where I'm going with that is 20, 30 years ago, we had red light cameras. People said, get rid of them. And there's pros and cons. All of a sudden people hit the brakes hard because they think they're going to get a red light, and rear end collisions go up and things like that. We've heard from the community, as much as I hate saying it, bring the red light cameras back, because it's just dangerous when you have somebody speeding who decides to gun it through a red light. It just creates a problem. I wouldn't rule out red light cameras, but I'm not looking to start that. I think it's a great program. It's part of our overall strategy for speeding. It includes road design, it includes signage, all sorts of things. This is a great tool to have.
I also agree. One thing I might suggest is if you could send along with that warning a small paragraph about if you had been caught doing this, this is what your penalties would have been, especially when it comes to reckless driving and losing your license. And
Yep.
Oh, that's a really good idea, Bill.
That is something we can include as well.
Plus a point on your DMV record, and so many points equals raising insurance. And
Yep, exactly.
okay, let me see if there's any speaker. But thank you. A nice report, and I'm excited to see what happens.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Are there any speaker cards on this item?
We have 2 speaker cards. The first speaker is Chuck Kay.
Hello, Chuck. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, City Council, City staff. My name is Chuck Kay. I'm a candidate for City Council District 1. I'd like to take a moment to speak in support of the El Cajon Police Department and their efforts to address community concerns about traffic safety. Based on the in-person feedback across the last few months here in City Council chambers, it is clear that the residents care deeply about speeding and the safety of their neighborhoods, and I appreciate the department's willingness to listen and adapt. In traffic safety, we often talk about the 3 E's: enforcement, engineering, and education. A balanced approach using all 3 is what truly makes a difference. First, enforcement. There is no substitute for visible, uniformed officers conducting traffic enforcement. That presence not only deters unsafe behavior in the moment, but it also reinforces that traffic laws matter. Community complaints about speeding are valuable data points. I want to thank the police for using them to guide targeted enforcement efforts, focusing officers' time and resources where they are needed most. Strategic deployment based on real concerns increased both effectiveness and public trust. Second, engineering. That is where the proposed speed warning technology comes in. Tools like speed feedback signs and data-driven traffic monitoring are not replacement for officers, they are force multipliers. They remind drivers in real time to slow down, and they help collect information that can guide both enforcement and long-term roadway improvements. Technology allows the department to be proactive, not just reactive. Third, education. Enforcement works best when paired with public awareness. The department currently highlights its traffic safety efforts through social media so residents understand what is being done. When people see that enforcement is happening and understand why, it changes behavior over time. Transparency builds cooperation. I have interacted with several residents in District 1 in person and through social media on this issue. I have collected their observations and traffic safety concerns. I will be forwarding this information to the mayor and city manager prior to the upcoming town hall meeting on the 21st. I also want to emphasize that adopting technology sends the right message, that the city is willing to innovate and invest in solutions that protect residents. When paired with visible police activity and clear communication, these tools can significantly enhance overall effectiveness. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
The second speaker is Anita Stewardson.
Hello, Anita. Welcome.
Hi there. I'm becoming a regular.
We're happy to see you.
Not shaking as much. First of all, I wanted to ask the police officer how they pick the streets that they are going to put their camera on.
Yeah, come on up, Captain.
And actually, Mayor, I can answer that question. So, I mean, the idea is that we'll have one in each city council district. We'll look at streets where we know we have the most speeding that's occurring, and then there probably will be a couple streets that are similar to each other. We'll actually work with each of you and give your recommendations, since you know your districts well, and say, hey, of these 3 places, where would you recommend? So that's how we will be looking at it. They're typically going to be in areas that there are significant corridors, traffic volume issues. So those are the ways that we will be addressing the location.
Like Washington.
Like Washington or Mollison
or Chase, like this man.
Hamishaw or Chase. Those are the areas that we'll probably be looking at.
And these aren't permanent. They can be
These are
moved.
That's correct. I mean, they can be moved. It's not just a matter of, oh, today we'll have it here and then tomorrow there. I mean, these are bolted on. There's some infrastructure that has to occur. But over the course of the year, they can probably be moved once or twice. So.
Okay, I think that'd be great. So that's kind of a force multiplier as well.
Okay, so good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and Council. My name's Anita Stewardson, and I've lived in the Granite Hills area for 45 years. I am speaking up for Granite Hills Neighborhood Watch, the Gustavo Street neighbors, various El Cajon groups, our neighbors in Crest, and our neighbors in Rancho San Diego. I shared at our last City Council meeting on Tuesday, March 24th, and I plan to attend the Town Hall meeting that's on the 21st. And I also plan to attend the Neighborhood Town Hall meeting for Gustavo Street on the 24th. So I'm getting out and about now that I'm retired. We're watching you and we're listening, and we want to be heard as well. We need to know more than, we need more than stop signs and K-rails. So this was a very positive input, so that was good. We appreciated the added patrolling today in El Cajon. Boy, did that stir up some interesting things, but we need that more regularly. We need the cooperation also of the city, the county, and the state to work together to make our corridors through our communities safer. We don't just need to please do not just stop after putting a Band-Aid up on the situation. Please do not make us think that you are working on this only to let us down. I'd like to thank Michelle and Steve for actually responding to me and some of my questions. Graham Mitchell, I was kind of disappointed I didn't get a response to my email. I was one of the 4 speakers at the last city council meeting, and I was not included in some of the email correspondence. I appreciate what's been done so far, and I'm keeping this short today, but I did want to make my presence known mostly, that I am here today and I'm standing up, and we're tired of this, but thank you.
Remember, you're always welcome to come back. You're our eyes and ears.
Okay, that's the end of that. All right, any further discussion? Looking for a motion then?
I see it's just to receive the report and provide feedback and direction. I don't see authorizing the spending.
So I think if you give us some feedback and you want us to move forward, then we'll bring all of that back in as a later package.
So I guess I'll make a motion to receive the report and direct city staff to bring back to us cost, contract, vendor, those things for evaluation and approval.
Just for clarification, from what I've heard amongst the council, that everybody seems to be in favor of this concept. Is there anybody who wants to correct me on that? Okay. Phil, did you want to say something? Okay, so is that enough direction for you? Okay, there's been a motion on the table. Looking for a second. Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Wonderful. All right, there are no commission reports on today's agenda. Item 13 is my activities report, and it is as reported. We're looking for activities reports now for the council members. Councilmember Goebel.
As reported.
Councilmember Kendrick.
As reported.
Deputy Mayor Mitchell.
As reported.
And Councilmember Ortiz.
As reported.
There are no joint councilmember reports, no general information items, no first readings of an ordinance on today's agenda, and the second reading was adopted during consent. So we are now at the closed session, and our city attorney will recite the titles and lead us into the closed session.
Thank you, Mayor. The council will meet in closed session on items 18, 19, 20 as listed on the agenda. The first one is a closed session pursuant to Government Code 54957, Public Employee Performance Evaluation of the City Manager. Closed session. The second one is a closed session conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6 with the designated representatives and employee organizations as listed on the agenda. And the last item is closed session conference with real property negotiators, Government Code Section 54956.8, with the property negotiating parties, city negotiators, and the items under negotiation as listed on the agenda. Thank you.
Thanks very much. I'd like to make a motion now to adjourn to closed session. Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go to closed session. We'll be back in a few minutes to conclude the meeting. Thank you. Our city attorney will report on the actions taken.
Thank you, Mayor. Council met on items 18, 19, and 20 as listed on the agenda. Direction was given. No reportable action was taken on each item. And for the record, Councilmember Goebel left at 5:08 p.m. from closed session. Thank you.
This brings us to adjournment, the adjourned regular joint meeting of the El Cajon City Council, El Cajon Housing Authority, successor agency to the El Cajon Redevelopment Agency, held this 14th day of April 2026, is adjourned until Tuesday, April 28th, 2026 at 3 o'clock p.m. Thank you very much.